spy isn't as glamorous as I thought. But it isn't dull.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder.
Of course, if you're new to the show, what we do every week is we start off by talking about different things, our thing of the week, which is what we've been consuming over the past week, and then we get into our weekly box office, which we'll expand it on that one for this show.
Summer box office is officially over.
Yes, and the money is being counted, and then we get into our topics. And so for my thing of the week, I watched a 80s cult classic. Directed by a cult director, Big Trouble in Little China. Actually, watched it for the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had never seen it. So it's a cult classic from the 80s, as I said, directed by John Carpenter, who not one of his usual movies. He's more known for being the horror movie guy, but every now and then he'd branch off and do something else. And
yeah. You know, it's funny. My sister just watched this movie a couple weeks back, I think, and my dad and I have some similar tastes. We also have very different tastes, and his kind of flat answer was why. I was like, "This movie's great. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. It's it's a fun movie. It's a little bonkers in a few places, but I mean that's John Carpenter. He can be a little bonkers at times. But so the movie, if you've never seen it before, the movie follows Jack Burton, played by Kurt Russell. He's a truck driver. And Kurt Russell's doing his best John Wayne impression. And what happens is he and a friend of his, Wang, I think was his name, they get caught up in some big trouble in Little China in San Francisco. Lots of Chinese mysticism with the bad guy, Lo Ping, I think was his name.
Lopan, I think.
Lopan, thank you.
Yeah.
And James Hong, I think, is the actor's name. He's been around for ages.
And James Hong, he's done so much voice acting in so many shows and movies I've enjoyed. Like, he's gonna be one of those actors that when we lose him, I'm gonna be so sad.
Yeah, same here.
He's always great in everything.
Oh yeah, and this movie was no exception. He's good in this movie. So was actually I would say most of the cast in this movie was really good. I even liked Kim Cattrall, even though I really don't like Kim Cattrall that much.
Sometimes you just need to have your role written around you and what you can pull off.
That's true. Yeah, and she kind of plays the character. The character she plays is kind of like a one of these like independent women from the 50s. You'd like one of those kind of characters you'd see in a Hollywood movie back then. But it's also part comedy too, because it's just because some of it gets really bonkers, and of course Kurt Russell is just like Yeah,
hamming it up. So
he's hamming it up, and what's funny is like, and a lot of people have pointed this out. Even though he's the star of the movie and he's on all the posters and everything, he's really the sidekick.
yeah, technically, like it's actually the actual Chinese guy who's part of this ancient, like what do you call it? An ancient, is it prophecy that they're trying to disrupt?
Right. Yeah. That's also the funny part of it. And the other thing too, his character like motivation kind of reminds me of the dude in The Big Lebowski, where he's just like, Jack Burton. He just wants to get his truck back. He loses his truck. He just wants to get his truck back.
Right. But why are you here? I'm not part of this. Get my truck back.
He says, I just want my truck back. It's just like the dude in The Big Lebowski. The dude just wanted his rug back. Really tied the room together. But yeah, it's a fun movie. It's got some really I would say pretty good special effects for the time. Even the CGI wasn't bad. It's just I mean, if you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it. It's a fun movie to watch, and I would definitely put it up there with Carpenter's best movies. I mean, I put it up there with like Escape from New York and The Thing and Prince of Darkness.
And I'd say that Big Trouble in Little China is probably the easiest to show to somebody who's a bit squeamish.
Mm-hmm. It is PG-13, so I mean it's not it's not over the top in that regard. But yeah.
What did you end up watching it on?
I watched it on Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. So if you got Hulu, check it out there.
Got Hulu, then Yoo-hoo.
Yes.
See, I could be a marketer.
Yeah.
I'll be better than some of the people we talked about later. We'll talk about later, but
yeah.
Because at least like my corny jokes wouldn't like drive people away. But all right. Speaking of not driving people away, my thing of the week, Beauty and the Feast, a manga by Satomi Yu. So basic premise is you have this widow who is the kind of a MILF. Like not gonna lie, that's kind of that's kind of her thing. Right? She's like but she's like late 20s. Her husband died, and she's kind of had nothing to live for. And then she finds out that there's this boy who moved in next door to her in an apartment, so he could be closer to the school where he's playing baseball, and he has a baseball scholarship for college. But he's working incredibly hard, and she realizes that the poor kid has been eating nothing. Like he can't cook, so he's been making nothing for himself, or he's been eating nothing but like convenience store food. So she's like, no. As hard as you're working, like we're talking like ridiculous workouts where he's talking, well, first the coach warms us up because we run 10 kilometers, and then we then I swing the bat 300 times with my point go right-handed, then I do it again 300 times going left-handed, and then we do base drills, and like we're just talking like thousands of calories expended a day.
Jeez.
And so it's just about her. It's just about her. This sounds weird. It's about her feeding him, and it's like how could that possibly be interesting? You rail about Marvel Comics, like making everything about food. You hypocrite, but you enjoy this. Well, for one thing, this is marketed as a slice of life. I would call it pseudo romance. I have the sneaking suspicion that eventually it will go that way, but as of Volume 3, it hasn't. Like he seems like he occasionally notices her, and weirdly enough, like all of his female friends who meet her notice that she's chesty. He never he's a very pure kid. He just thinks of her as that nice older lady who makes me food sometimes. And there's like little shenanigans with like her meeting some of the people in his life and learning more about the two of them. It's just a pure slice of life, or a loaf of life. because food jokes.
Yeah, I
But
guess.
I don't know. I'd recommend it for everybody, but if that sounds interesting, it's worth it. It's worth a look. The other the other kind of amusing thing is that because she realized that, oh crap, I've been eating like him, so I've never been this heavy before.
uh, well, you had me at chesty milf.
There's worse reasons to read a comic.
Yes.
Like I was watching a Comics Perch channel or a video where so there's this writer named Stephanie Williams, I think, over at Marvel. It's either Stephanie Williams or Stephanie Phillips. Pardon me, I can't think of who it is.
Yeah.
She's basically regarded as not being very good at her Marvel and DC work. But Perch knows that everybody seems to like her Amazing Mary Jane comic, which I thought was like as boring as like I had to force myself to finish reading it. I thought it was like an interesting concept where it's like in theory where it's like, oh, Mary Jane Watson and Mysterio are making an indie movie together where Mysterio is trying to like go legit with this, and that's why she's helping him. But it's like just the way it's written was just so like you ever have a dialogue on a page your eyes just slide off of.
Yes.
Well, Perch knows saying, all these reviewers who normally hate Stephanie's work were saying positive things about it. Yeah, because Mary Jane had big boobs. You were that's what people liked about it.
Yeah.
Was that art and the boobs.
Yep.
Well, speaking of big things, let's talk about. Actually, speaking of underwhelming things, let's talk about last week's box office.
Oh yes.
Nothing cracked 10 million.
Wow.
Now we didn't really have any major new movies come out, and Top Gun is number one again.
Yeah. Even though it's now available digitally, I believe, to buy digitally.
Yeah, video on demand.
Yeah.
Blu-ray comes in November. You know they're going to sell so many combo packs of it with the first movie. Like, that's got to be a thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just like the movie that won't quit. It crossed 700 million because this number here of 699 is only through the second, and the second was I don't this doesn't count Labor Day, so
okay.
But still, Bullet Train climbed up there. You might wonder. It's actually kind of unusual that everything kind of grew. There were two big reasons for this. First off, Labor Day weekend, so people are looking to do things on their extended weekend.
Yes.
But also, they did. I'm told that a lot of movie theaters did a $3 ticket deal for Saturday, which benefited Thor: Love and Thunder 1% over the previous week. But to be fair, that's either come to Disney Plus or it's coming to Disney Plus. I don't recall which.
I think it dropped today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm not watching? And you can't make me watch, even if it's for the channel.
Okay.
I'll probably end up having to watch it with somebody at some point, so I'm not going to make myself watch it twice.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough.
And they have the only major release was the Spider-Man No Way Home, the More Fun Stuff edition, which I've heard that they did some weird alternate takes that actually are objectively worse, and the stuff they added wasn't that interesting. So it sounds like you were better off. The best time to go to see it in the theaters was last year. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Well, c'est la vie, as they say.
Yep. But yeah, aside from that, it's just basically the same group of movies that we've been seeing for the last 3 months of podcast. That's actually part of why we thought it would be fun to kind of do our 3 big winners and 3 big losers of the summer. So I think it's blatantly obvious what our first choice is going to be.
Yes. Big
Top
winner.
Gun Maverick. Look at that ridiculous trend line.
Yeah.
Uh, it's out. It's now in the top 5 unadjusted for inflation movies ever. Suck it, Last Jedi.
Yes.
You're out of the club.
Yeah.
I think it's if it hasn't already beaten. Well, let's find out.
I think it beat. Beat Black Panther. Yeah.
Yep, it's kicked Black Panther out. Black Panther, I remember liking well enough at the time, but I feel like as time has passed, I've become more cold to it.
Yeah, same here. You know, it's.
Uh,
I think the bad CGI in the at the end kind of, you know.
I think what really got me in the end was kind of realizing, wait a second, why is this movie about him becoming the Black Panther when he became the Black Panther was more badass in Civil War?
Yeah.
But so anyway, hats off to you, Tom Cruise. Well done.
Yes.
Kind of proving our continual thesis here that if you make movies that make people feel happy to be alive, and for being who they are, and for you actually have like a progression. The story is about a story and not grievance. Then
exactly. Yeah, and it's not overly political and isn't preachy and all that stuff. Yeah.
What was really funny is that early on, like the first couple of weeks, there were some articles that were going, "Oh, is this this movie is too rah America or whatever," and they realized they weren't going to win this fight, so they stopped very quickly.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and open up another tab here with something I may not have had. But by the way, we talked about it before, and I liked Daniel's definition. I believe you said from the first week of May through the end of or through Labor Day.
Yeah.
That's our definition of the summer season.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that we have to give ups to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Was it likely a disappointment for Disney that didn't hit $1 billion? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of disturbing that they had the biggest opening weekend of the year, but they are heavily trailing Top Gun Maverick? Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Are they probably unhappy that their first weekend dropped and then they fell?
It was like.
So it wasn't 81%, because I remember anytime you see anybody make a video about an 81% week over week drop, that's Friday to Friday. That's comparing 2 Fridays, and they always lump the Thursday previews into that first Friday.
Okay.
So that's never a fair number, but it was 60% plus.
Yeah, it's still not good.
Yeah. And it just kind of died. So like the way you can measure the legs or something is how much of its money did it make compared to its opening weekend. It took it like all these months to double its domestic box office opening weekend.
Oof.
2.19.
Yeah.
If we compare that to Top Gun, which is an unfair comparison, but whatever, 5.5 times its opening domestic weekend. This is the sign of a movie that people liked initially, but then stayed away from because everybody who wanted to see it had seen it, and people who didn't like it were telling their friends and family to stay away.
Yes, and if you were like us, you waited until Disney Plus, and you were still disappointed.
I want my money I get back. I don't care that I sponged Disney Plus off my sister who gets it free through Verizon. I feel like I deserve a refund after watching that movie.
Yeah. Well, I want I want 2 hours of my life back.
Yes. Mahler made a 5-hour review tearing that movie apart, and he did not say anything that was unfair. He went into deep dives, and he was noticing things that we noticed. There were things that I don't usually notice in these movies that I noticed, and I was happy that he noticed them too.
Yeah. Well, when you make your titular character a background character in his own movie,
Yeah, that's usually a problem.
Yeah,
worked out for Big Trouble in Little China, but that's because Kurt Russell is really the main character.
Really, yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, if we're being objective, Doctor Strange is in that top 3 of of a total performance, and nobody can take that away from it. Just
Yes.
neener, he didn't hit $1 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
And then our third one, which is almost guaranteed to hit $1 billion at this point, unless they just yank it from every theater simultaneously, is Jurassic World Dominion.
Mm.
I have not heard anybody say anything good about this movie, except for there's dinosaurs.
Yeah, same here. I really have no interest to see this movie or watch it. I haven't seen any of the Jurassic World movies.
Yeah, I watched the first one with a friend. I can't recommend it. It's just not good.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, they should have just stopped after Jurassic Park.
I think that 2 was okay because there was a book to back it up.
That's true. Yeah,
I'm okay with 2 existing.
Okay, yeah. 2 was I didn't really care for it that much, but yeah. But I see your point. Yeah.
And I see yours too. So
yeah.
now I should note that Doctor Strange did not get to appear in China, where Jurassic World did. So that means that although Jurassic World cost about $35 million less than Doctor Strange, because Disney always does everything $200 million.
Mm-hmm.
How much of their box office was China? Oh, also Jurassic World was at the bottom end of its projections, unlike Doctor Strange, which was just like sub projection after its first weekend continuously.
Oof.
So let's see, how much of it was Chinese? Let's find out. Okay, 157 million. There's a reasonable chance that now, with the difference in budget, they're very similar to each other in profit. Actually, no. Well, so the thing is, like in the States, you get a little bit more than half on average. Internationally, you get like 40-ish% on average. In China, you get a quarter. In the CCP pockets, the other 3/4.
Yeah.
So Doctor Strange might have managed to make more money because they didn't have to share any money with China. But yeah, so and then notice that the top 3 movies. Now we could have gone in and gone like percentages, but I'm just going like raw numbers because ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
There's probably some movies that, if you compare it to their budget, were more impressive percentage-wise. But
yeah. We're not going to go that far.
And then our kind of surprise hit was Where the Crawdads Sing, which didn't have a particularly big opening weekend, but it has legs like opening weekend is 17 million. I remember at the time we were like, well, it did all right. It'll probably make its $24 million budget back. And then it's hit 5 times its domestic opening in just the U.S. So that's always very impressive. Like that's that is good word of mouth. That is people coming back to see it. I'm almost curious to watch this now, just because it kind of sounds depressive and female oriented. But I like to expose myself to different things occasionally, just to like maybe that could be our no hype review when that hits streaming.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm curious about it too. It kind of looks like one of those movies that would have been screened at the movie theater that I worked at when I was in college.
The weird indie one.
Yeah. Even though it was owned by Regal. But yeah, it probably is a very melodramatic movie, but it's as Chris Gore would say, having it's nice to have a balanced media diet.
Yep. Yeah. So that's our winners. Top 3 plus honorable mention. We could have also put Elvis in here because that thing just legged out as well, but it was also nearly 3 times as expensive, or more than 3 times as expensive as this. So it kind of had to.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Now, if Morbius had existed in the summer, we would have brought it up.
We would have Morbius, yes.
Yeah. But instead, we have the other punching bag meme of this podcast, Lightyear. It's not very often that you come out with a Pixar movie that manages to lose hundreds of millions for the studio,
No.
or at least without the excuse of, oh, it's COVID time, so we have to go straight to stream. Don't you understand? We can't possibly put this in theaters.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, when you the original projections were like, this is a Toy Story movie, it's a Pixar movie, you have pent up demand.
Mm-hmm.
This should, in theory, have done very well for itself, but they managed to make something so boring and unappetizing that, like, who is it for?
Yep. That was my question a couple of weeks back when I had this as my thing of the week. Like, it's just such a I hate to say it, it's such a non-movie.
I kind of got the impression it was for sad millennials who are unhappy with their parents. Does that
Yeah,
sound accurate?
that sounds very accurate. Yes. Yeah. It's you know, and I pointed this out, and we pointed this out. Like, this isn't the movie that would have made Andy a fan of Buzz Lightyear. This is the live action Masters of the Universe movie.
Yes. This is them going, oh, that animated Buzz Lightyear movie they came out with in '99 or whenever is popular. Gosh, let's rush out a live action movie and not understand. It's weird. I've noticed this with a few of the Pixar movies I've watched recently, and a couple of the Disney animated ones. They feel like they're designed on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
By which I mean so this movie, it takes place on like one planet at the start, then they get stranded on the second, right? Or do they even show the first? Or do they even have a first planet they go to?
No, it's just the one planet. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of lame.
Oh yeah.
When I watched Luca, I noticed that they didn't have a lot of it was once they hit a certain point, you didn't have a lot of underwater scenes, and they mostly just filmed it in this one town. And the town was reasonably detailed, but it was a kind of a small town too. So
yeah,
like it was a town where you could reasonably ride a bike up the hill in a single race and come back down and not have gone too far.
Yeah.
And then in Kanto, I noticed, this house is kind of detailed, but there isn't a lot outside of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie was a lot like that. Yeah, it's just they're on one planet. They go to different parts of the planet, but the parts of the planet they go to aren't very detailed. And then they do end up going up into space when they fight Zurg or as we discover, old Buzz Lightyear.
Which, if that spoiled you, man, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God. There was very little, if anything, in this movie that I liked, and it doesn't surprise me in the least that it bombed.
Yep, barely broke even if you did dummy math and went, well, it made more than the budget. Ignoring the marketing, ignoring the smaller cut.
Yes, exactly.
Boy, hey, maybe you should have taken that lesbian affection out for the Middle East, huh? Could have gotten a few more dollars.
Yeah. You could have done a little bit better.
All right. Speaking of live action movies, this one is one that I'm a little bit. I believe I was not surprised that this movie did not do super well.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. It's I would say a very niche superhero story.
Right. You shouldn't have hired The Rock to be Crypto. I'm sorry. I like The Rock is a fine enough actor, but he doesn't necessarily lend himself to it.
Yeah.
Like you could have just gotten a real animation veteran voice actor. Like, I think you could have probably made this movie for about half as much, and people would have been happier.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, X Alan.
Hey, X. Good to see you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like it's a hatefully bad movie or anything. I think it's just I think that this movie was made with the expectation that by now the DC extended universe would have been turned around and everyone would go, "Oh, tied to Superman, that's awesome! I want to go take my kids to that because I love those new Snyderverse movies or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the landscape we live in.
Nope.
And then I think I think Beast was our other kind of big loser.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it was super expensive, but it kind of came in with a whimper.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't hear much about it when it came out. It just kind of like showed up, and
I saw a trailer before Bullet Train, and I was kind of just bored by it. Like it had some it's like a guy versus a lion, I guess. At first I thought it was like something supernatural to it, but it's it's just like a horror creature feature, and I wasn't super interested personally. But
yeah.
to be fair, it seems that not very many other people were either.
Yeah. Yeah, it did what? Let's see, a little over 50 million on a $36 million budget. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably one that'll break even over time with streaming. And actually, whose movie was this?
Sony, I thought. Universal.
Universal. Okay, well, they had some Jurassic World money to burn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I forget they're Peacock, right?
Yeah. It's it's all owned by They're all owned by Comcast.
Okay, so they'll probably use this to boost their Peacock numbers a bit, and then
Yeah.
and then sell it to like they have like a weird deal where it's like at least with their animated stuff, it goes to either Netflix. Their stuff either goes to Netflix or Amazon first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think it first goes to Peacock for like 6 months, then it goes to either Netflix or Amazon, depending on the type of movie it is. Then it comes back to Peacock after another year.
Yeah. Huh.
So it kind of, or at that point, it's open for more negotiation. It's like that's their deal, like with the animation and whatnot. I was hearing about it on Midnight's Edge. I forget the exact details, but
Yeah.
so since they are renting it out to Amazon or Netflix, that'll I think this movie will ultimately break even.
Yeah, I think so too. And you might see a little bump with the Blu-ray and DVD sales.
Right. Expect to see a bunch of these like marked down to $5 for Black Friday.
Yes.
At your local Best Buy.
Yeah.
And then our honorable mention loser, which I don't want it to be a loser because I think it's a fun movie, is Bullet Train. This is another case of it's doing all right. Like it's nearly crossed 200 million worldwide. It's just too expensive for what it ended up making.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder how much of that was Brad Pitt's salary.
Good question. Probably. There were probably, definitely six figures.
Oh
Possibly.
yeah.
Well, he might have been able to finagle 10 mil out of him. Who knows?
Yeah.
To be fair, he is great in this. So whatever they spent, it was worth it.
Yeah.
This is another one where it'll probably eke its way back over time, just because I predict this is like going to be a cult classic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll see a boost with Blu-ray, DVD, digital sales, and like you said, once it goes into streaming, it'll probably get a lot of views there.
Might even go into cable because cable still exists. So
yes.
So like where Lightyear this is like the difference in strategy. Lightyear was used to try to like Disney puts everything onto Disney Plus to try to boost Disney Plus numbers, which is not profitable still.
Right.
And I don't think it's estimated to be profitable until 2024 with some rather generous assumptions.
Yes.
Even if they could sell this to Netflix, that would not make it back up.
No.
So yeah, I would say Lightyear is the biggest unambiguous bomb of the summer.
Oh yes. Absolutely.
Probably for the whole year, honestly.
Oh yeah.
So anything else we want to say about the box office before we move on to another unambiguous bomb?
No, I think we covered it.
Yep. Next week, let's do a preview for the rest of the season because It's just kind of like, well, we're not the best at predictions, but we'll throw them out there
Yes.
because people can point and laugh at us and say we're dumb.
Yes, exactly.
Which isn't that what YouTube is all about? Speaking of telling people they're dumb,
Yes.
transition game is still on point.
Oh yeah. All right. So latest news came out about the rotting corpse that is the new G4 TV.
Yeah, man, I do.
Yeah. So most of you probably already know what happened with G4's comeback. Didn't go the way they hoped. From Frosk getting angry about isms and that and whatnot, and complaining and saying that former G4 hostesses do not exist to be easy on the eyes. What I would say to that is, no, they don't exist to be easy on the eyes, but they were hired for the job because they were easy on the eyes.
Yes. And what's really funny is that after that, within a few weeks, they had resorted to hiring VTubers like Iron Mouse to come on the show. And they had like Amaranth and other sexy streamers doing weird games in bikinis or whatever. So
They were trying to go back to the old G4, the weird game stuff that they would do, and which even I will say back in the day when G4 was on cable and everything, like the only time I ever watched it was to watch reruns of the original Star Trek and TNG, and to watch the original Japanese version of Ninja Warrior.
See, I was big into the actual G4 channel, so Adam Sessler kind of disgracing himself over time, and what this turned into is painful. Now, I didn't hear about that. I did not even hear it had come back until I saw about Frostgren's rant. But
yeah, same here. Yeah, it blew right past me, and obviously her rant. I don't necessarily want to say that it was all the collapse is all her fault, but it's certainly certainly a contributing factor to it.
Yeah, I've heard people suspect that was a staged moment, which it's very possible it was. Because I think when you watch the stream, you kind of notice that it's like I think Poochie has something to say. That type of staging at this first moment.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, God, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Come on.
Now I'm gonna So I believe it was the fact that they interestingly they of course clipped it out and made it its own video to try to get some clicks, and but they recently took it down. But although the original full stream is still up.
Okay.
I mean, I want you let's play an alternate scenario here. So I think it's fair to say that most gamers, and this is not me casting shade at anybody, because I've lived that life and I do occasionally live that life. If you have like 12 hours to sink into a long Minecraft session for a day or something like that, you don't necessarily have the best life.
Yeah.
Or at least I will say you don't necessarily have the most social life or the most, you know what I mean? Like now maybe that's just how you want to spend a Saturday and you have a great life the rest of the week. So like if you can do that multiple times a week, unless you're a professional streamer, you're probably not the happiest person, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but why would you go to a thing like this? You'd let's say that you remember G4 from back in the day. Maybe you're there on like, do they have Olivia Munn back or Morgan Webb?
Yeah, or Sarah Underwood.
Yeah, like do we have them back in like something low cut to talk about video games? No? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But Adam Sessler was there. I always thought he was amusing enough. And then the problem is that that they're kind of like with that one actress from Obi-Wan. That there were like at least a handful of people who are legitimately harassing them like that. Like,
Yeah, and to be fair, a lot of people were going after Frost because she made a comment about how that they don't finish the games when they're playing them and they have like other people who are playing the games as well are going to finish them, and in her, she was basically saying, well, we don't have enough time to sit down and play all these games through, because a lot of them are very long games. To be fair, like you're talking about some of the gameplay with some of them are like 12 to 20 hours. That's a long time.
And she was saying like legitimately uninformed things about the state of Xbox versus PlayStation. Like, I'm an Xbox guy, but PlayStation has been winning for a while, although that seems to be reversing in recent years.
Mm.
But let's put that aside. Like, in my scenario, you don't necessarily feel the best about yourself, but you're watching this because it's amusing. Maybe you have it on the background well, maybe have it on the background while you're doing your gaming, and then suddenly this woman like starts laying into like you. Now she doesn't name you by name, but if you're somebody who I like looking at attractive ladies talking about video games.
Yeah, well, who doesn't? Yeah.
Yep. So it's like so it's like it's kind of like if you're a school teacher, you don't yell at the whole class unless the whole class is legitimately doing it. Because what you're doing there is you're telling the good kids, "Oh, I've just been lumped in with all the bad kids. Why bother being good? I get punished too."
Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to do an alternate. Now, I think that this was. I feel like this was staged, and it was an attempt to make people aware of the channel. Which, congratulations, but you drove away whatever viewership you had gotten.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's an alternate rant that you could have done that would be building up the audience, right? Like, there had to be a way to twist this in a way that, it's like don't just like harangue them as be better. It's like say you're better than this. People have always make fun of gamers. I know I'm a gamer. I know that gamers are better than this. My best friends are gamers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't live down to this. Don't live down to what they think of you. Like, we take you seriously here. We want to inform you, but it's hard to do that when a small minority of people are attacking us.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the mature way to handle it. But unfortunately, I doubt Frost has that level of maturity in her.
No, from what I could tell, she's kind of a shit poster.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and you need people, and I know, again, we're talking about people who are talking about video games, so there's a little bit of a childlike quality, because you and I are man children. Let's be honest. We still, we play video games, we read comic books, we read manga, and watch anime.
I bought a toy of a YouTuber dog who curses in video games and goes wow 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 wow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But at the same time, you kind of you have to be an adult.
Yes.
And yeah,
you can enjoy your childish things, but think, like, do second order thinking.
yes.
And it feels like it's kind of like what we keep talking about with a lot of creative endeavors, where the actual creators are trapped in their Twitter bubble and think, oh, everybody outside of my Twitter bubble doesn't matter. There aren't that many of them. So I can totally lay into them for objectifying those people from the past, and all the good people will like me.
Yes.
Well, know your audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and G4's audience, it's especially with the old channel, the audience was predominantly males
Hmm.
between the age, who were, I will go middle school, high school, college age, maybe mid-20s.
Yep.
What do males in that demographic like with video? They like video games.
Sexy MILFs who feed them. So you should have been, your audience was the Beauty and the Feast audience.
Exactly. Yes. And yeah. So I mean, you had a winning formula and you blew it.
Yeah. And I question if the winning formula would have even worse today, because there are so many. It was just so expensive. Like, look at this big set they've got back there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They had writers. They had.
Yeah. I think it was Comcast. They sunk a lot of money into bringing this back, and and we're seeing the results now. I mean, we see the headline there, their president has left after less than a year, and he's not the only one. They've had a lot of people. They've had a lot of people jumping ship over ever since the Frost rant, which was, I will say, probably the catalyst.
Yes, it brought it to a lot of people's attention, and then thousands of people, you could watch them lose subscribers in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many of those people who were subscribed from the good old days who hadn't noticed that they were getting updates.
Yeah, probably quite a few. Yeah. But yeah. RIP to G4TV again.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now I think, now as far as the other aspect of this is that I'm not sure. Yeah, the old formula wouldn't have worked. I think that the smart formula would have been to start small, like think about the YouTube gaming channels that you watch. Like, they typically focus on a small number of games. Like, you're watching a review of whatever the person who runs the YouTube channel decided to play that week.
Yeah.
What you could have done was you could have gotten a network of people like that, kind of like the whole live model, where you like start with a few creators, you put them out there, you build them up, you have them network with each other just to build up that interrelatedness. You have like a master channel where you can put funny clips from their streams or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just slowly expand from there. But nope, they had to go all in big time from the start.
Yeah. And and as D. Ryan puts it, let them die. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of ill thought out, overly expensive media ventures. So earlier in the week, Amazon reported that the first episode of The Rings of Power was watched by 25 million people worldwide. Samba TV seems to say different.
Yes.
So, first off, Warner Brothers said that the first episode of House of the Dragon had 10 million views. Samba TV reports 4.8. Now, this does not mean that Warner Brothers lied, because Samba TV has a very limited data set, or a somewhat limited data set. It's like a big data set, but it's not like a complete data set. So Samba TV is a software that is installed on several brands of smart television. I believe they are on Roku, possibly. I think it's Roku and possibly Fire TV, so Amazon's brand.
Okay.
So it works as and what it does is, like, it specifically has to be on the television. If you have an Xbox plugged into it and you watch that on that app, it does not count for their purposes. If you watch it on your phone or your web browser or your tablet, it does not count for Samba TV.
Okay.
So, if HBO Max reports 10 million people, I think it was like 8 million on HBO Max, 2 million on HBO regular, which kind of shows you how much HBO regular has dried up.
Well, yeah, it's yeah.
So, and this is also only in the US and possibly Canada. Not sure if it counts Canada.
Mhm.
So, yeah, HBO says 10 million. Samba TV says 4.8. That's reasonably in line.
Yeah.
And I should note that this is within the first 4 days.
Okay.
They are also measuring households, which is a reasonable number because it's basically you aren't trying to count how many people might count as be in a household because you might watch it alone, you might watch it as a big watch party, you might be something the family gets together to watch. Although, man, if your family's getting together to watch anything Game of Thrones related, you have a very interesting family.
Yeah, I was about to say this. Yeah, it's not. This is not a show. That's not a show I would watch with my parents. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I mean, there is a lot of family loving going on in that show, so it's got good values there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so HBO said 10 million. Samba TV says 4.8. Amazon says 12.5, or excuse me, 25 million. So that would be like roughly 12 to 12.5 million, right?
Yeah, roughly.
Bump, bump, ba
Oh.
1.8 million in its first 4 days.
Oh.
So
Oh.
the question is, did Amazon actually lie or did they just spin a tale?
I would say probably spun it. Because I think some of that's probably international in that 28, but you're blocked by Prime Video, or you block them.
What's that?
Prime Video on the right, under relevant people, you have Prime Video. Are you blocked by them, or did you block them?
I blocked them. I think I was tired of getting advertised.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm not even rabble rousing on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, some of that's probably international. But yeah, I think they're definitely there's some. I would say they're definitely doing some spinning and shenanigans to make their $1 billion show look good.
Right, because nobody wants to watch a show that nobody else is watching. Or at least many people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Also, notice that I went ahead and just logged into a browser that I don't have my Amazon account on. They do show this, but the first thing they're trying to do is make me play Luna, which is their game streaming. So I can start with this, then it went into Rings of Power. So that's the other thing that could be influencing this is if a lot of I know that on the day of launch, I went to Amazon.com and they were trying to make me watch it. So if a lot of viewers picked it up through the web browser, Samba wouldn't see them. They could also be playing games with. They could also be playing games with. 25 million people watched it. We're assuming that the average click was watched by 2 people on average, to account for a mix of lonely people, families, and watch parties.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, though, that this is kind of getting slapped in the face by HBO's member.
Yes, yeah. The other thing, and I'll point this out real quick. The marketing and the overall approach with this show towards people who are critical of it, and the pulling out the usual name calling.
Yep.
You look at House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon, by the way, I would say has a pretty diverse cast by the looks of it. Nobody has a problem with that.
I've heard some people have a problem with it, but it's not to the same extent as this show.
Yeah. And from what I've heard too, the dwarf queen that you've seen in
all the meme videos or
oh
all
yeah,
the
yeah, and
joking
all
videos.
them, yeah. Apparently everybody likes her.
Yeah, she's the one character people like. It's Galadriel here that they don't care for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you got. I heard this on Clownfish TV. Like, you got Grace Randolph saying she's a Mary Sue and a Karen.
Oof. And Grace Randolph is not on our general taste of things.
No. Yeah. So I mean, you lose her, you've lost a lot. She's not the only one that probably thinks that way.
And it's so weird. Like they had all those videos with the influencers who you go to their YouTube channels and they have nothing about even fantasy on them.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like they kind of realized that they had a turd on the way, and they just
Yeah.
tried to do whatever they could to try to push it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's a playbook. This is a playbook we've been seeing used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It
Yes.
ties together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and this has been going on for what 6 years now. Like it's just it's probably not going to stop anytime soon. And Amazon will they'll spike the football in any way they possibly can. Yeah,
Am I out
exactly.
of touch? No, it's the public who are wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and it's also like I've heard people try to argue, oh well, Lord of the Rings isn't a big brand anymore. F you. It's that should have been a slam dunk, easy thing to tie in.
Yeah, if that were the case, that it would not be called Lord of the Rings. It would be called something else. They would have
Right.
changed the names of the characters, and it would have been in a completely different fantasy world.
And they would not have committed to $1 billion for this thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you don't look. Okay, so I'm gonna say this slowly for in case any executives stumble across this video.
Yes.
The reason you buy the rights to a known property is because the known property, just by being the known property, is going to get a certain amount of views or dollars or whatever. Like if you come out with a, I don't know, if you come out with a TV show based on Gears of War, just hypothetically, Gears of War is a very popular game. You know that you're going to get X million extra eyeballs on your Gears of War TV show versus it being another generic Space Marine show just because people like those characters and like that universe.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you keep buying these things up, changing them, then yelling at the audience that you changed them? For that matter, G4TV. Why did you decide to resurrect G4TV instead of putting that licensing money from whoever owned the rights? And I heard stories that Olivia Munn may have catfished somebody into investing it before dumping him. Some executive over at Comcast. Although I don't know if that's been proven, but because she still owned a chunk of it, I believe or she was paid because she was associated with it.
Oh, I see.
But why make G4 instead of making a unique YouTube / Twitch channel? Because just it being named G4 is going to make a certain number of people go, oh, I recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're making new G4. Let's give that a shot. So the value is in the familiarity with the brand. Why change the brand?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Bounding Comics says that House of Dragon viewership falls sharply with episode 3, so we may have more updates on this as time goes on.
Yes.
But another interesting thing that came up that doesn't quite fit this these are different streaming services. What percentage of viewers have a streaming service and only watched a single show on it?
Oh.
Hulu, half of Hulu people only watched a single show, 55%. Apple TV, 60%. HBO Max, 62%.
Mm.
This actually does not entirely disagree with my experience.
Yeah, mine either.
Like Hulu, what did I mostly watch? I told you about it. Bob's Burgers initially.
Yeah.
Apple TV Plus, I got a free subscription. I tried Ted Lasso for about a season and a half. Then I switched over to, then the next month I was watching Planet Dinosaur. And then I stopped watching it and canceled. HBO Max, 62%. What do you want to bet that they're watching Friends or something like that?
Yeah, or Game of Thrones, or
like that's a scary number, because if you lose that one TV show, you've lost your subscriber.
Yeah, and it's well, especially with Apple TV Plus, because I mean, supposedly the new season of Ted Lasso is the last season.
So they're going to have to lasso up some new content.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. So we got like a third story here that doesn't quite fit the template of the others, because this isn't about buying up another property and mismanaging it or anything. This is more like a rumor that seems to be kind of persistent, from what I can tell.
Yes.
This picture of the Flash saying that Spawn is his favorite hero, as drawn by Todd McFarlane, is unrelated to the other story, or to the story in here. But it was too amusing not to share.
Yes, yeah. We had to share it. Yeah.
So we talked last week about how Ethan Van Sciver has been speculating that DC is prepared to turn over its publishing to Todd McFarlane, and I've seen this continue to go on.
Yeah.
So what is the basis of this? So in 2020, before 2020, DC had a in-house toy manufacturer that made nothing but DC toys. In the midst of pandemic shutdowns and everything, this was quietly closed down, and then the license was sold to McFarlane Toys. So now he's making the DC toys you might see if you go down to Target or whatever. There has recently been I believe, I don't know if it's just this one Flash toy, but what sparked the interest of people was that there seems to be a comic book that was commissioned and designed on McFarlane's own Steam, may even have a McFarlane cover. I didn't have a chance to look into it because I couldn't find out much about it. But at the very least, it was in his style on the cover.
Yeah.
And then it's being bundled with a Flash action figure they're producing. And this is like a unique comic, as far as I can tell, not like a reprint or anything like that. So it's very interesting, because it's like now, for those of you who pay attention to the comic book industry, you may recall that a few years back that IDW actually had a limited license to make some Disney comic books. Like they made a few Marvel books, they made a few Star Wars books. These things sold like absolute ass, so the license was discontinued. But the suspicion at the time was Disney is trying out to see if they can save the whole expense of having their own in-house comic publisher, because if they can just license it out, that's way easier.
Yeah, and certainly more cost effective.
Yep, because it lowers the possible reward if a comic book blows up, but it also lowers the risk, because hey, you get your fixed amount.
Yeah.
So there is a suspicion that this is a similar sort of trial run, that they are looking at, okay, well, maybe Todd should be the new head of DC Comics, because Jim Lee certainly isn't doing much these days.
Yeah. Well, of course, the more important question to ask is that a job that Todd McFarlane would want?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? He's recently seems to remember that he's still publishing Spawn on the monthly, again
Right.
with a bunch of like they did a big Spawn number 300, I want to say, that
Mhm.
sold a lot of units. That was the usual American comic books um, the, cover schemes and things like that, propping that up.
Yeah.
But and he came up with a bunch of Spawn spin-off comic books that seem to do all right. Though I don't know how well they're doing these days. But by and large, I
Mhm.
would say that Todd McFarlane's legacy is in toys.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He he's got the he has the Star Trek license.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, so first off, would you be hiring on somebody who is even more distracted than Jim Lee is? Because all Jim Lee has to be
Mhm.
distracted with is wanting to, draw stuff that that he feels like drawing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We were talking before the show that this would be more up Rob Liefeld's alley if he wanted to.
Yeah, like I would choose Rob Liefeld for this job in a heartbeat. Not necessarily to like draw and design everything, though. Give him a book if he wants it, but
Right.
he loves these characters. Specifically, he loves the second tier characters.
Yeah.
He is waxed poetic about reading the Aquaman comics when he was a kid in the '70s and crying when his son died, and he
Mhm.
loves the Legion of Superheroes and Teen Titans. And like, if you want a creator or if you want a creative director uh, who would like really just like love that job. He's been very dissatisfied with DC for a long time, so he also has an opinion on it. So
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think you're right. This probably is some sort of a test run that they're doing to see if it will work, if it will sell. Um, and
right.
yeah.
Right, and this is me maybe just tying things together with a conspiratorial mindset.
Hmm.
Although D. Rhino says HBO Max only watch Spawn, so that's kind of amusing that was our lead into this.
Yeah.
But me just tying things in conspiratorially. At some
Mhm.
point, either last year or the year before, Todd tried to claim that he had inked a couple of pages of the classic comic The Dark Knight Returns.
Really?
Just like they did it secretly, and the actual like he's like, yeah, I was over at so and so's house when he was inking, and he's like, hey, you want to do a couple pages? And he said, sure. And the actual inker said, no, that is not what happened. You, I don't even know if I don't know how much he stretched. I forget because it's been a couple years since I watched that your boy Zach video where he broke down the tweet thread. But yeah, he had the observation at the time that none of the Image guys really have a Watchman. None of them really have
Mhm.
a Dark Knight Returns. None of them have like that seminal classic story that everybody still talks about. Like
Mhm.
like people look back fondly on a lot of like Wildstorm, and some people look back fondly on Youngblood and early Spawn and early Savage Dragon and things like that.
Yeah.
But nobody like really talks about them as stories. It's more like that because it was partially because it was a company that was founded by artists for artists.
Hmm.
It's like they made a lot of money, but what was the long term impact?
Well, they're basically Marvel and DC. They're their own Marvel and DC. Not as big, but they're
Right. I guess I would more say their accomplishments are the business and financial spheres, not in terms of
right. Yeah.
making Image comics is a big deal. Image is still a big deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Even as the American comic book market suffers, Image is still where people go to publish indie books. Image has given us The Walking Dead and Invincible,
Hmm.
so it's no one can ever take that away from them. That was a big bold move they made to make Image the way they made Image.
Yeah. 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 It was the risk of it was a huge risk for them to all leave Marvel and do their own thing. Yeah.
Now, I say that, and I'm reminded of something else that Rob Liefeld said. By the way, if you enjoy comic book things and nerdy things. Ooh, if you have to pick one podcast, don't listen to us. Listen to Rob Liefeld. Like his Rob Servations podcast is great. I think I will listen to 100 episodes during quarantine. When I got my, you get your annual Spotify statistics where it says, oh, you listen to this and that and that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, that many episodes? I guess that sounds right.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so he was talking about how in the early days of Image, he and Jim Lee basically kept the company afloat because their structure was for every comic you published, you kicked in $2,000, $2,500 a month into the kitty to run the company.
Mm.
Well, Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld had like a big swath of books all at once. Like they were doing spin-offs and hiring artists and things like that. So I think between the two of them, they were way more than half of Image's maintenance budget because they were publishing so many books. Rob was doing like Evangeline, multiple Youngblood things, a Battleship Galactica or Battlestar Galactica comic of all things.
Yeah.
He got like a 3-year license for like $20,000 because the owners went, wait, you want to market us for free? Okay, yeah, bring our brand back, please.
Yeah.
Not for free, but you want to bring our brand back? Yeah, here, $20,000, please.
Yeah. Yes.
3-year license, go.
Yeah, and in a couple of years we'll get a brand new TV show.
Yeah, so like if you liked Battlestar Galactica, you probably have Rob Liefeld to thank for it partially.
Yeah.
Anyway, but like meanwhile, Todd was publishing 2 comics because he wanted to focus in on making what he felt was a quality product, which that's I definitely understand that. But at the same time, has Todd ever run more than 1 or 2 comics, or a significant number of comics at a time?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Rob can say in all honesty that his Wizard would break down comic sales by brand, not by company, but by brand. He was only behind X-Men at his peak.
Wow.
In terms with fewer books for net sales.
Wow.
So a part of that was just that Image collector speculation. You wonder how many of the comics were actually read versus thrown in a Mylar bag and forgotten. But it's like Todd has not shown himself to be Mr. Huge Publishing Operation. He's wanted Spawn to be a great movie forever.
Yeah.
And he thought he had it. He didn't have it. And he's been trying to make Jamie Foxx that Jamie Foxx Spawn movie for, gosh, ages.
Yeah. That Spawn movie. I mean, God, that came out in what, late 90s?
Yeah, and it's for everything I've heard, it's pretty good until you hit that last scene where they really wanted to show off their amazing CGI.
Oh yeah, I have seen that scene. Yeah, it's
I've seen it out of context, and boy, that didn't look good even at the time.
No. Reminded me of the CGI in the Power Rangers movie.
Oof. Now, I'm going to say, if I'm being honest, would Todd do a better job than Jim Lee? Probably, just because he'd be new blood, he'd be a new opinion. Jim kind of seems to have been handed the reins of DC just because he was the last man standing after they forced Didio out.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this rumor possible, but it's like you may remember a couple years back that there was that rumor going around that they were about to sell DC Comics to some fanboy mega investors.
Oh yeah.
I believe that probably somebody showed up and kicked the tires to see what it would cost and ran away when AT&T said what the actual cost to license or purchase the brand would be.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a grain of truth here. I think that there's something interesting going on, but we'll see what it actually results in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all we can do is wait and sit, wait and watch.
Lord knows I'm not the best at predicting, so
Yeah, I'm not either.
I guess if you put me in a corner and said predict something, well, Todd's making a Batman Spawn comic that he's trying to make big. So that if that does super well, they might give him more work with more characters.
Yeah.
They could even he could even sub hire people. So that's not entirely impossible, but I don't see him necessarily taking over the whole shebang. Who would?
Yeah. I don't know.
I say if I had to pick somebody who I know in comics with experience, put Rob Liefeld in charge. Just he isn't allowed to necessarily dictate what the exact details of the story and art direction, but man has passion.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all the show we have for this week.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Do all the usual YouTube stuff of subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting the like button, and hitting the bell, and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. And we'll see you all next week. So.
Yep. Night, everyone.
Night, everybody.
The life of a spy isn't as glamorous as I thought. But it isn't dull.